Well, here we are, guys. Life in the Peloton, presented by MAAP. Don't forget, it is a great time right now. The Life in the Peloton book that we released earlier this year is being exclusively sold at MAAP. Look, this is a project I worked on with a good friend of mine, Tom Southern, over the last few years. It's a guide to what life is like in the pro Peloton. Look, it's for everyone, from the aspiring pro to the cycling nerd to the newbie. There's heaps to read in there. Either drop into a lab and grab yourself a copy or head over to maap.cc and get one shipped out to you right now. Well, this is it, guys. It's the end of the road season, and if you're a long-time listener, you would know it's the end of the season for us here too at Life in the Peloton. We've always followed the road season calendar, and it's time to have a break from cycling. It's time for off-season. It's time to rest. Time to have a bit of a party, but then it's going to be time to retrain pretty soon as well. Well, in the light of all that, we've got a really, really special guest for you to close out not only the season, to close out her career too. It's the Olympic and World Champion, Grace Brown. She's just arrived back here in her hometown, Melbourne, and she was kind enough in a jet-lagged state to come and meet me for an afternoon coffee and just have a good old-fashioned yarn. I've been resisting in jumping online and chatting with Grace this year, always knowing I wanted to kick back and have this conversation with her in person. But little did I know she was going to have such an epic season that she's had. And in the end of all that success, do the ultimate mic drop and call it a day on professional racing at the high of all heights. But look, although we won't be having a podcast come next week, there will be, of course, lots of good stuff going on at Life in the Peloton still throughout the end of the year. Just around the corner, we have got the Life in the Peloton MAAP cycling kit and casual apparel dropping. Yep, you heard me right. The very first MAAP Life in the Peloton kit is coming. It's coming just in time for Christmas, a great little stocking filler, or why not a cheeky gift for yourself too. December 1, the kit will be launched, and if you were at the Specialized Dirty Docker last week, then you would have seen the first glimpse of some samples of the kit floating around. But if you couldn't make it, don't worry, just check out the video, all the socials coming out of the Specialized Dirty Docker to catch a glimpse of the new Life in the Peloton kit made by MAAP. It's so cool. I saw it. I got to feel it. It's happening. But we've also got a little exclusive offer for the Pelo members only. The Life in the Peloton membership. You guys are going to get some special early access, VIP access, before it goes live to the rest of the world. How exciting is that? If you're not a member, then there's still a chance to sign up and not only get this special early access of the MAAP Life in the Peloton kit, but also lots of other benefits. The special Chronicles podcast that I've been working on with Swain Tuft all this year. Great episodes there. We've also got a signed copy of the Life in the Peloton book, which will get shipped straight out to you, plus some other sponsored discounts from Specialized, MAAP, Restrap, Pure and POC. There's heaps of stuff for the members there. Just head across to lifeinthepeloton.com, sign up to the Pelo, either up the front in the echelon or back in the Doom line, whatever tier suits you guys. Well, let's get into this episode with Grace Brown. A really nice chat with her on the end of her career. Well, this is special. Grace Brown. We're here in Melbourne, aren't we?
Yeah, in Moonee Pond, sitting at a typical Melbourne cafe. Got a cold brew, sunny weather. Couldn't be better.
You've only just got back, haven't you?
Yeah, landed on last Thursday night, so pretty fresh. And it's the first time I think I've ever had proper jet lag.
Ah,
yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think my body knows that it's all over. It's just like throwing in the towel and, making me suffer.
Well, you already said it. It's all over. How does it feel sitting here at the cafe, not lingering like, okay, I've got the off season, and I guess, you got to start training up. You went for a ride this morning. It's not out of the system. You mentioned to me just before you want to keep it going. Has it dawned yet?
No, I don't know. Like I'm battling with the mentality of it, I think. Still enjoy riding my bike and getting out there. I think I'm going to struggle to let go of, like, I don't know, wanting to be fit. But it is weird, like, not... Because usually you stop and it's like, all right, I have 3 weeks to just let my hair down, eat all the bad food and drink all the beverages I can, and then you'll get back to serious business. But now I'm stopping, and this is the rest of life, so I probably need to have some healthy habits.
I can't. Yeah, I just hearing that. Like, I'm trying to rewind myself back to that moment. Like, I've been retired. I think you said it well, actually, because it's not retired. You're just stopping competitive cycling.
Yeah.
You worded that really well. I heard it the other day, and I keep saying I've retired, but clearly I'm not. I'm still working and doing other things.
Yeah.
I've just stopped racing competitively. I'm still riding, and just that feeling of closing it all out. Coming back to Australia, it's always lovely getting back to Australia after a full season and just sort of reconnecting with your home and being back. But I guess Melbourne for you, how long have you been in Melbourne? Because you originally weren't from here.
Yeah, I moved to Melbourne when I was a teenager. I got shipped off to boarding school when I was 14 and, stayed in Melbourne for uni, and then basically until I hit the road for cycling, I was here. So Melbourne is, pretty much home.
Well, Camperdown, where you're from, is a pretty famous town for cycling. It's actually pretty famous just recently looking through it. There's so many sporting legends that come from there. There's a handful of AFL players, Olympians. You're only just one of many.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Camperdown punches above its weight, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely a sport-loving little town. And, I mean, AFL was always the biggest sport that anyone played, and if you became an AFL player proper, then you're a legend. But even the recent Olympics, like, I won gold, and another girl from the town, Penny Smith, got a bronze medal in the shooting. So they did pretty well overall.
They did very well. And of course, the Melbourne Warrnambool, it used to go through. It doesn't go through there anymore, does it? No,
unfortunately, they've changed it to go down like through Timboon rather than Camperdown, which it was a bit disappointing. I always wanted to race it and go through Camperdown. So.
Well, you said it before, the Olympics, Olympic gold, incredible. Such an incredible way to finish your last year. I can't believe that that's sort of how it is, but we've got to go back there. It's completely opposite day than what today is. Today is a beautiful sunny day in Melbourne. It's always sunny in Melbourne.
Yeah, I don't know what people are saying about Melbourne. It's a lovely place. The weather's always sunny.
Let's go back to Paris and firstly what I want to ask you is, sitting up there talking to Big Eddie after you won.
Yeah.
How was that? Speaking to Eddie Maguire, TV sort of personality, mainly known for his sporting stuff, but sitting up there being the first Australian to win a gold medal at this year's Olympic Games.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was like, when did I speak to Eddie when you just mentioned that? I'm like, everything's sort of a blur from after, from the moment I won to just being, like, dragged all around Paris for various media things. But, super cool, like, being in the Channel 9 studio in front of the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, speaking with Eddie Maguire, like, I don't know. It feels like, something like someone else did. It was pretty cool.
What was the atmosphere like in Paris? Clearly before the time trial, you're focused on the day, and I want to get into that in a minute, but I want you to sort of understand, because from Australia, I loved the Paris Olympics. It was so cool to watch. I got 3 kids, so they were really getting involved with the Olympics and understanding it. And then knowing you and kicking things off, it just got myself really hyped about it. The kids are really hyped about it. They couldn't believe I was coming down and talking to you today.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And they really remembered that moment because it really kick-started things for Australia. So what was the atmosphere like over in Paris? You did the time trial, but then you had to wait for the road race. Were you able to absorb that atmosphere and enjoy it?
Not as much as I would have liked to. Like, the Oz cycling team sort of kept us under wraps a bit. We got moved out of the village for a couple of days to make sure that we kept training and preparing for the road race. But the days that we were in the village were really cool. And especially, when I came back to the village after winning my medal, and the swimmers returned. They had like had a really late session. Some of them had won medals as well. And yeah, they just came up and congratulated me and were like, we saw your race and it inspired us. And
Oh, really?
yeah, and like I was like, fuck, that's cool. Yeah, that was really cool. And then like each day they'd beat the TVs in the Aussie headquarters, and everyone would just be around there like cheering on whoever was competing in whatever sport. And yeah, it was really nice to be part of that Aussie vibe. Like, we don't get that in cycling.
No.
And we didn't get it at the Tokyo Olympics because we were separate from the village and all the other sports. So yeah, I really soaked that up.
What about a little bit different, but rewinding back to sort of, you're also there at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham.
Yeah.
I've only done the Commonwealth Games. I didn't get a chance to do the Olympics, but I loved that. And I was in Gold Coast, and I loved exactly what you said. You got in the village, and people would watch. I just did Roubaix the week before, and random athletes were coming up to me who I was like, oh, look at that. And they're like, hey, well done at Roubaix. I'm like, why'd you even watch that?
Yeah.
But
How do you know who I am?
It was so cool. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't be bothered being there because I'd just done Roubaix, and I got back instantly. I got my motivation flipped from 0 to 100. I was like, I'm ready to go. So
Yeah, that's cool.
only at the Commonwealth Games. So I'm trying to imagine what it's like at the Olympics.
Yeah, I think, well, I reckon Gold Coast in Australia would have been next level for the Com Games. Like, doing a home event is always cool, and everyone gets more hyped, I think. But Birmingham was good. Like, it felt, because I'd done Tokyo and then I went to Birmingham. And yeah, we started to get a bit of that culture. We weren't at the main village for the Com Games. It was like a satellite one, but there were still other sports. I think we were in with rugby. So that was fun, and just seeing other athletes from other countries. Yeah, that was cool as well. So it's sort of just each event just like bumped up that little bit more, and Paris was, the pinnacle.
I want to talk about this last year before we get back to Paris. But your last year as a pro was a big year. It was an amazing year. 57 race days, and you sort of did everything. All the best stuff. You did all the Australian stuff. You did all the classics, from what I could tell. You slipped the Vuelta in there, did the Britannia Ladies Tour, which you won for the second time, Catalunya, Giro, Olympics, Tour de France Femme, Romandy. Then you did the Worlds, DNF at Trevally, second last race. And then you finished with a time trial in the World Championship bands. Tell me about this last year. It's been a big year, and really the announcement of the retirement. So coming into this year, what was it all about? Was it about knowing that this was your last year, or this sort of bubbled away as it was going?
Yeah, I sort of knew from a while back that this was my last year. It was something that, I'd spoken about with Elliot for a while, my husband. But I didn't announce it until, I think, after the Classics, after the Vuelta. But I told, like, our team manager, I think, just before Strade Bianchi, I had a meeting with him and said that, it's going to be my last year. And we sort of just said together, okay, we're gonna go out on top. Like, I'm gonna have my best year yet. But the Spring Classics were hard. Like, I was not really in a good place for most of it. I had niggling injuries and just, like, I don't know, couldn't get into the racing the way I like to usually. Yeah, it sort of just managed to come together in the week of the Ardennes. And I came away with that Liège victory, which was insane. Like, it was
two times second before, so it's like you've been that close.
Yeah.
And to grab the first Australian to win a monument, first female Australian to win a monument, so epic.
Yeah. And from that moment on, it was like, okay, my year is amazing. Like, I've won a monument. If I finish with just this on my results sheet for the year, like, I'm happy. So maybe, like, having that just freed me up to really, go after some other big goals without that desperation.
What about, let's just rewind a little bit. Where's this decision come from? How did you come to that this would be your last year? Because, look, the form's there.
Yeah.
You've got the rainbow bands. They're going to be featuring in the Belgie, no doubt.
For sure.
Local,
Belgie on a time trial bike. Why not?
the most famous punch ride in the world, based out of Melbourne. But to be able to do one lap in the world colours, or even another 4 years in the gold helmet, gold bike for the time trial, clearly defend your Liège title. So where's this decision come from?
Yeah, it's come from just the fact that I've been. I don't know, a lot of Aussie pros move over to Europe and really set up life in Europe. They bring their family with them, and it just becomes like normal life. But for me, I've always had to leave Elliot behind in Australia. He's stayed here. He's got his own business, so he can't really pack up and move to Europe to follow me around. And it's just been hard, every year doing that. And I feel a bit like, my life and the relationships that are important to me have been on hold for the time that I've been a professional cyclist. And I don't know, we came to the decision that 2024 was the last one. And definitely at the start of the year when I had to, get ready to leave again for Europe, I was pretty unhappy to leave Australia. And even with the success, I just kept, I guess, reminding myself that even though, you have the high of...
Don't forget this moment, the low. Because this is the reality of what it is. Yeah,
exactly. Because...
Not in a really sad moment, but I 100% get you.
Yeah.
You finish your Grand Tour, you absolutely hate it the day before. Yeah. And 2 days later, you're I'd probably do the Giro again. It wasn't too bad.
You forget how bad the lows are and how miserable you can be sometimes at the start of a race, being I just don't want to be here. And also for me, going home between races sometimes is pretty lonely. Even though I've had some pretty epic highs this year and you really can get carried away with that, I know that it wears off. And I think even more so after this year, I don't think it can ever be matched. To get the same success and the same highs is unlikely. So I've just had to be really realistic with myself and remember why I made the decision.
That's awesome, because I think a lot of people, and myself included, don't fully understand what the life of a female pro is. And it's I think vastly different to the male pro because, financial side of things, the support from the team side of things.
Yeah.
And there's a question that I sort of wanted to know is why don't we see a lot more partners following the female athletes, or the female pro, because it's quite a common occurrence for male, say Australians or Americans. Their partners come across, they have set up their family. You mentioned that a few do it, but I know a few who are similar to you. They pack up, they come back, and their partner's back here working, and they come across and visit them maybe once a year, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think it's slowly moving, for more female pros to be able to support their partners to come and be in Europe. The salaries have definitely increased, and I mean I could have supported Elliot if I needed to, but he it's more he has his own his own things that he's chasing, and I don't think he would have coped just being a home dad. I don't know. He would have been able to find something, but for him to close up his business in Australia and commit to coming over would have been a really big thing. So, it never got to that point.
I feel like it's almost cultural's not quite the right word, but it's sort of always been that way. And we've seen, especially in the last 5 years, especially the women's cycling has made a massive shift. And it's, as you said, financially, sure, it's moving in the right direction. It's a long way from where it needs to be. But it's the racing itself is just watching it. I love watching it. And I'm going to be completely honest. probably 5 years ago, I didn't really watch any women's cycling.
Yeah.
And now I'm more than happy if it's a man or women's race. I don't care. They're just both great racing. So yourself, pretty much your whole career, you were racing over in Europe from 2018 with Wiggle, and then 19 you started with Mitchelton. That was sort of really when the big shift started to happen, and your career, you sort of followed that shift and you got to experience it all the way through.
Yeah, it's been like really crazy each year how much it stepped up, and like the most tangible thing is obviously the financial side of it and seeing salaries increase, but also just like the coverage. I remember the first year it was impossible to find where to watch women's races, and now all the big.
That's probably why I didn't watch it either. Because you really had to search for it.
And also, the even if there was a broadcast, like the quality of the commentators and everything, it just made it less interesting. But now it's really picked up. And I think the characters in the women's peloton have really grown, and it's like. I don't know why Netflix haven't made a series about the women's peloton, because it would be so much more interesting.
There's a lot going on, is there?
No, I just reckon we've got good characters. It'd be fun.
Tell me what it's like riding on a French team. You rode the last couple of years on FDJ. The men's squad's been around forever. I wouldn't even know how many years it's been there. 20 years plus, more. What was it like riding on the women's team and that shift from Mitchelton? So you came across, you started your European career with Wiggle, British team, and then came across to Mitchelton, which is the household Australian team, and then across the FDJ, a French team. Yeah,
it was quite different. I think I wanted to sort of move out of my comfort zone in a way, and I didn't want to spend my whole professional career on the Aussie team and just be in the culture that I knew. Even though Green Edge now is it's not purely Aussie anymore, but
it's always got that. You could probably argue, FDJ is not pure French, but the bones are. So the bones of Mitchelton are sort of Australian and always will be.
Yeah. It wasn't I think maybe the male French teams are a little bit more challenging. FDJ Suez, the manager is really keen on the team being more international, and he makes a rule that all communication is in English, and really tries to have at least half the riders non-French. A little known fact actually is that the women's team and the men's team are completely separate.
Right.
Yeah, not the same entity at all.
Same kit, that's about it.
Well, no, just...
Same sponsor.
Just same sponsor. Yeah, we don't have Groupama. Pretty much all the other sponsors are different. But, everyone just assumes that we're the same team. Little insight for the listeners, just setting things straight.
For myself too,
yeah. No, everyone assumes that. But, no, it's been good. Obviously, sometimes it's hard. Occasionally I would do a race and it's just me and the rest of the team French, and they can't help it but speak French at the dinner table. And, but I don't know. I sort of just weaseled my way into conversations anyway and made them speak English, or I learned enough French to know what they were talking about. But I enjoyed it.
Do you think that added to the way you were feeling coming into this last year? Do you think, even though it was a new motivation, a fresh place, do you think that added in that extra culture when you were away on races?
No, because I really felt like it was a family on the team. I was really close with a lot of the girls, and felt super valued there, more so than I did on the Australian team. And also, the management were much more relaxed. If I wanted to come back to Australia, they'd be like, yep, sweet, we'll factor it into your program. Whereas when I was on the Aussie team, it was they didn't want to, if they let me do it, then they'd have to open it up to all the Aussies. And
Well, they knew what you were doing when you were back here. Just drinking beers, coming and riding with me up in Lansfield.
Yeah, dodgy. Yeah, off the rails. Yeah, so actually I think the French team also was sometimes like, what is Grace doing when she's back in Australia? But, I mean, they trusted me despite it all to come back and do my job and, yeah, so it was fine.
Well, a bit of change in tact. We're only 2 weeks out of it, but the Dirty Docker, unfortunately, you weren't able to get back for the Dirty Docker, were you?
I tried to change my race schedule, but it wasn't on.
Because I wanted you there to do the Dirty Hat Trick, which involved cross-country running, cyclocross, and the gravel. Because you're an ex-cross-country runner, aren't you?
Yep, I did. I was going to say I dabbled in it, but like pretty much did it my whole childhood and teenage years, so a bit more than dabbled.
What's the pro cross-country scene like? Because I tried to tap into it. I was speaking to a guy, Mitch.
You can't say pro in the same sentence as cross-country running. I don't think it exists.
Well, they got buses and stuff, I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah.
Treadmills outside the bus to warm up.
All of that, yeah. There's heaps of money in that.
What's it like?
It's very like club scene oriented. I guess I got into it through school because, you know, when you're a kid in primary school, you do the school cross country and then you go to, I don't know, regionals and then state and, then I'd do the nationals. Basically did that every year.
Did you like it or was it just because you were good at it? Were you good at it? I guess if you went to nationals.
Yeah, I was pretty good at it. But there was like a period, I think, in my early teenage years where everyone else started training and I missed the memo.
So you're just doing off raw talent.
Yeah. I think like 6 weeks before the nationals I'd start training and I'd do like, I don't know, we had a 2K block and I'd just do like a 2K run and that was my training. But then probably like later in high school I got a little bit more serious. I joined, once I was in Melbourne, I joined Box Hill Athletics Club.
Oh, wow.
And trained on the track, so got a little bit more into track running as well. But yeah, cross country was always part of my year in the winter.
What did you like about it? Was it sort of like the rough? Could you compare it to say like a classics race? You know, it's a bit gritty, it's a bit muddy, it's hard.
It's probably more like cyclocross.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're like, it's muddy. You sort of
full on.
Yeah, full on, like a bit hilly. And yeah, there was always like a sausage sizzle or something that made you feel sick as you're coming towards the finish line. But yeah, also just a like good community. Yeah, I really enjoyed just like the people I trained with and going to races, and it was a good little family when I was in Melbourne and away from my mum and dad. So yeah. And
from what I understand, you didn't continue on because you started getting injured a bit, and maybe that was the lack of training, potentially. I'm understanding now. That doesn't work.
I think it was when I tried to train more, then my body was like, nah, we're not into this. So, I got a whole heap of stress fractures, like both tibias, the head of my femur. And
wow.
Yeah,
just from doing the short stuff, or you were just getting into big Ks then?
I was trying to like build up. I think I never really got much over like 50 Ks a week. And then my body started to just
weren't made for running.
It just wasn't made for running. I think like, I don't know, I'm quite a muscular cyclist and I was leaner as a runner, but like still muscular. And yeah, I think it was a little bit too much bulk to carry around. So yeah, the bones weren't up for it.
And so you made the jump across to cycling.
Yep.
How did that come about? Like, I know you've probably told this story a million times, but I've never heard it. I want to hear it.
I don't know. For quite a few years, my dad, for some reason, was telling me that I should try cycling.
Your dad was a cyclist?
Oh, he's always, ridden. Like,
casually.
Yeah, he did some racing with the Camperdown Cycling Club, but I don't think he really enjoyed. He just liked riding away on his own. So, yeah, I wouldn't say he was like a proper competitive cyclist, but has always enjoyed riding his bike. So he tried to get me into it, but when I was a kid, I hated riding my bike and having the helmet, and I'd walk to school rather than ride my bike. So I was really resistant to getting on a bike. But then, yeah, I don't know, because I'd had enough of running, I was like, well, I need something else to do. So, yeah, I was like, okay, I'm going to buy a bike.
Right, you bought one yourself.
Well, I think it was like a deal with mum and dad for a birthday.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And then, yeah, just got pretty hooked. I went down and joined a bunchy on Beach Road, and then, yeah, wanted to race.
You're like, oh, it's actually all right, this.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was like I don't know, I sort of expected it would just be like another endurance sport. Quickly learned that there's a little bit more to it. But yeah, it's like so much more fun racing a bike than racing on two legs, pounding the pavement. So, yeah, got pretty hooked.
Really quick progression, because, you know, you started that transformation was in about 2015. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
You came on the bike, and then pretty quickly you went through the NRS, raced on Team Gusto or Holden Team Gusto.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
But then a couple of years later, you're awarded the Amy Gillett scholarship.
Yep.
In 2018, and that's sort of after an amazing sort of breakout season in 2018. You were the Oceania champion in time trial, third at the Nationals.
Yeah.
And that sort of was the pathway across to then Wiggle, which we spoke about before. You got the love for it, but then that ability, you've always had it there. That sort of transition through those NRS periods, we were sort of thinking, wow, I might really give this a go here. Or is it just naturally happening, next thing after next thing?
Yeah, I think I was just like, all right, I want to get better at like whatever I'm doing now. And then I was like, this is what I need to, push to the next level. And I started winning, some of the NRS. And actually the year before the Wiggle in 2017, I went with the Aussie development team to Europe. And
first exposure to Europe.
Yeah, that was tough. Doing some of the Belgian races, and I think we did Thuringen. We even did a few world tour races, like Tour of Norway and the race in Sweden, Vagada, that doesn't happen anymore. But it was really hard. I remember getting dropped pretty much every race. And
are we like, what the hell?
Yeah. and also just being told, okay, you need to get to the front for, whatever part of the race. And I thought, it's literally impossible to get to the front.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to get there? It's just this block of other cyclists in front of me. And I really thought I wasn't cut out for it. I remember a conversation on the phone with my parents being like, no, I think when I come back, this is the end of it. This pathway is not going anywhere. I'm not going to be a pro. We'll leave this behind.
Wow.
But, I don't know. At some point when I came back to Australia, all that experience in Europe must have just, soaked in. And then the Aussie summer after that,
You're going.
I was going, yeah. I was really good.
You didn't get so scarred to go I don't want to go back?
Nah. Not so scarred. Other than the racing was the hard thing. So I guess then coming back and having a good experience in Australia, racing Tour Down Under, and I actually came third on one of the stages. I was like, well, if I can come third here, then maybe I can
maybe move up to the front in Europe.
Maybe I can make it to the front of the bunch in Europe at least once. So yeah. It sort of flipped my mindset about it somehow, and I felt positive. And then actually that Amy Gillett scholarship was sort of in partnership with Rochelle Gilmore to join Wiggle for a few months of racing. So I didn't do the full season, But it was just like another nice little like taster. So yeah, that was good.
It's amazing you say that because it's almost the exact same story that I've got to tell about my own experience. Only that I was racing my first year as a pro in Skill Shimano, and I literally came back and said to the people who were there, I'm going to serve out my second year as a Neo Pro, but that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep up. I got dropped, and I just couldn't fathom how I could ever race over there. But in the same light as you, I went back the next year and it clicked. It's soaked in. I think soaked in's what it is. You almost need this beating down. But I think that's what makes good pros. Listen to me pump my own tyres up. But it does. You need to almost get to the rock bottom.
Yeah.
And understand, do you want it or not? And there's that point of like, I'm just going to give up or I'm going to try again. And when you try again, you're ready to take it on.
Yeah, it's interesting because there were definitely times, like even before the first time I went to Europe, I really questioned, is this something I want to do? Like, life's pretty good in Australia. It doesn't sound that fun, really, going over. Like, you hear all these horrible stories, especially from the women's peloton back then. Like, just, girls living off absolutely nothing and, like, getting treated poorly and just, like, it didn't sound very nice to give up my life in Australia to go over and just survive. But yeah, I was pretty fortunate for it to work out a little bit better than that.
Well, then Green Edge picked you up after that breakout season, and 2019 you're really going because it's the first of 4 times you took the Australian time trial champion. And I don't know whether you'd been thinking this along or it just sort of fell into place, the time trialing. Was it just sort of something that happened and you're like, I'm actually quite good at this, or you like the discipline?
I don't know if you ever really like time trialing.
Good. I'm glad that you cleared that up because I thought you were some kind of time trial freak that loved it.
No, I just do it because I'm good at it. Yeah, I think I realised that I was pretty good at it even like in NRS. Just probably,
you got the engine.
Yeah, probably from running. Like, I'm really used to just being at an uncomfortable sort of effort for an extended period of time. In running you really learn just like to pace and be at that like just off like your limit for
Sounds
for the
awesome.
distance you have to yeah, it's not
I do love running, but I know what you mean. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I sort of credit the running a little bit for the time trialing.
It's the mentality, I think, and Mike Woods is a really good example for me, an ex-runner, and the things I see him do sometimes, I'm like, Mike, just sit down. You've been out of the seat this whole climb for 40 minutes, and he's just dancing on the pedals.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, how are you not building up lactic? He's like, I am. I'm fully lactic the whole time. But he's just like, I'm dealing with it, It's the mentality. You see it also from mountain bikers, I feel like they, and cyclocross riders that you said, they've got this idea that, okay, well, I've been there before. I've hurt myself so hard before. I'm not afraid to go there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, I think I'm pretty used to being in pain. And every time beforehand, you're like, why do I do this to myself? Like, this is so stupid, just like heading down the ramp and you know that you've got 40 minutes or whatever of absolute hell. But keep rocking up again, doing it again. Few screws loose.
Lots has happened. Your first big win in Europe was Brunsapel.
Yep.
Tell me about that in 2020. A bit of a funny year because that was actually at the end of the year. It was the COVID year.
Yeah.
And what was it like? Yeah, I guess, now not a time trialing, really sort of cracking it.
Yeah, it was very cool to win that race. I don't know. I think I came off the COVID sort of lockdown period.
Where were you
well.
for COVID?
I came back to Australia. Yeah, we were in Belgium and some races were getting cancelled and I literally was like just looking at flights like I'm getting out of here. There was no way I was getting stuck in Europe during COVID. So I came back to Australia.
Oh, it was easy back here. No lockdowns, nothing. It was cruisy.
Well, it wasn't too bad. I think because there was a lag. Europe went off and then I came back to Australia.
And then you flew out.
It was all right. And then Australia started going downhill and they went into lockdown. And then 2 weeks later, I was back in Europe and they'd opened up again and racing was starting. So
oh, cheeky.
Yeah. Elliot called me the chief lockdown avoider.
But it worked
Yeah.
because you cracked it.
Yeah.
And you're like, hang on.
Yeah, I came back with some like good form, and I don't know. Yeah, it just started going well. And sort of found myself racing the classic style races, and being up there in the final like each race. And that was just, it was fun. I really enjoyed that year.
And really feeling part of the Peloton now, and
Yeah.
pretty quickly, it's just like you got to remember just 5 years ago, just sort of grabbing that bike and doing the bunchies.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden over in Europe, the big step, the harsh reality, but then finding a place and winning in the classics is also really special. It's not winning a stage race and nothing to downplay that, but it's a one-day race. It's a really technically difficult race, racing. So I guess you're starting to feel like, hang on, I do belong here. I feel a part of this circus.
Yeah, I think it took me a long time to feel that. Like even this year, sometimes I'm like, like now I was like, okay, you really like belong here. But
Definitely.
I guess just like coming a bit like late to the sport. There's some of it's like, you don't always feel like. You have the same history as everyone else, so that you really like belong there. But I think once you start getting a few results under your belt, you start to get a bit more respect from the other riders, and Did you like that fact sometimes? Because I feel like sometimes, maybe not in that scenario because I've been in cycling forever now, but in different things, especially where I'm living now, we're coming in new, and you've got a different look on things, and people who have looked down the same road their whole life don't see that tree on the left, and you're like, have you seen how cool that is? They're like, oh yeah. I didn't see that ever. Like they've got their blinkers on. So yes, you're the outsider, but maybe you looked at these races slightly differently, whether it was the running stuff, whether it was coming in late. Did you ever think about that? Did you like that fact? Yeah, I reckon maybe it helped me, especially in the start. Like the reason that I was able to get some results like earlier in my career was because I just went out and attacked, and like I don't know, just
through caution of the wind. Let's see what happens.
And like not in stupid parts, but just I was like, I feel like doing something here, so I'd go and do it.
Well, why is no one attacking now? I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah, exactly. And then like it paid off a couple of times, but eventually people get a little bit wise to the fact that you can do that. And the later years, I wasn't able to be quite as aggressive because, as soon as I attacked, especially, everyone knowing that I'm a good time trialist, it's like, nah, we're not going to let her get away with that one.
Look, there's so many things we can touch on through your career. You've got, you went to the next year, you were already over at the Olympics. You win De Punta, another great classics. Second at Nolka, of course. Second at Flanders.
Third at Flanders.
Third at Flanders, sorry. Yep. Third at Flanders.
Yeah.
Oh, would have been good being right up at the pointy end of that.
Flanders and Paris-Roubaix are two races that I really wanted to get one day, but it wasn't to be. I
want to go right back to Paris now and speak a little bit more about the time trial, because I want to get a little bit inside the preparation and maybe the insight to the lead into that. You mentioned that getting Liège, you're like, cool, I'm good now.
Yeah.
Going to Paris, at what point were you like, nah, Tokyo, fourth at Tokyo, there's still more in there. You knew you'd raced all the girls there at the Worlds, second at the Worlds the year before. So you knew, obviously, you had the goods.
Yeah.
But it's putting it together. Technical course, wet course. Tell me a little bit about the preparation coming to that, the training.
Yeah.
Working with your coach, the mentality.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really key was coming second at World Champs by like 5 seconds the year before. And during that race, like I had this period towards the back end of it where I was like, I'm not going fast enough. Like I'm struggling here. I'm not going to be anywhere like near winning.
You were thinking
race.
that in the time trial.
That was my mentality. Like that's what was going through my head, and I like kept pushing, but like not quite as much as I probably could have in hindsight. And then I got to the finish and it was only 5 seconds.
You're like,
and I'm
damn
like,
it.
Yeah, surely I could have like found that in that like period of doubt during the race.
Was there a moment where I could almost feel you're going to go, I swear I'm never going to do that again?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, so coming into Paris, I was like, every second is gold. Like, you are going after every single second on the course.
It seems strange because I'm assuming people listening going, but wouldn't you do that anyway? But like, I 100% know what you mean. You're still going hard. You're still right at the point. But there's like, I hate to use this analogy, 110%. But it's like going 100. You're going 100 the whole time, but it's like 110. It's like absolutely getting to the line and going, if I'm fifth and I know that I rinsed it, proper rinsed it, I couldn't care.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you need to... I don't know. There's points on the bike where you literally, your body shuts down and you can't go any harder. But then often it's like, okay, this is really hurting, but there's still more. You can just twist it that like tiny little bit more. And I went into, the race in Paris, like being absolutely prepared for it to hurt and like go deeper than I ever had before. And I was really focused on the effort. Like, a few weeks before, I was starting to get a little bit, overwhelmed by everyone's expectations of how I was going to go. How
did you shut that out?
Well, I spoke with my sports psych, and he encouraged me to focus on, just focus on the race and like what it was going to take to get the best out of myself, and realize that I had no control over the result. All I had was, the effort that I could put in to myself to race as fast as I could, to get it all out on the road, and not to really worry about what was going to happen afterwards. So then, for the weeks leading into the race, I really just thought about, okay, I'm going to be doing this. It's going to hurt. Like, we're going to be going fast. Like, just sort of visualizing the whole race, and then get to the finish line, blank, like no visualization after that, like just about the race. And I think that really helped. Like, then I was much calmer. I wasn't like feeling the pressure so much. Just knew that I had to focus on myself and what I could do.
You didn't, you were able to still stay above that expectation. Like, I know going to the World Championships, there is a big pressure there, but it's like there is another Worlds.
Yeah. And
you don't always want to get to that point where you're always second, third. Oh, next one. But I know there's something different I can imagine with the Olympics, and I felt it slight with the Commonwealth Games. People came out of the woodwork and started contacting me, like, oh, you're doing something finally. You're like, what about all the Roubaix that I've ridden? But like, it doesn't mean anything to people outside of the cycling world until you have something like this. So was there anything in there that sort of rattled your cage a little bit leading up to it? Yeah,
I think a little bit of that, like... people that have no idea what I'm doing the rest of the year suddenly paying attention. And also just like the investment that, Oz Cycling had made into me, like making sure that I had, all the best equipment, and I don't know, just like crossing every T and dotting every I.
You're almost like, oh, I don't need all this stuff.
Yeah. And the more support you get, the more you're like, well, I better freaking deliver, because they are expecting me to. They're putting all these resources into it. Yeah, also family, like getting really excited about it. And I think pressure is a privilege, as they say, and having people believe in you is awesome. But you have to be able to wear it.
What about the Olympic effect? The gold medal. Is it opening doors? What's the feeling so far?
I've only just got back to Australia, so it's interesting. Like, being in Europe, I was sort of sheltered a little bit from it. I didn't come back and do all the welcome home sort of Olympian stuff.
We can put a parade on up in Lansfield for you, I reckon.
That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
I'd
love to do that.
With all the like ticker tape or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
It has been pretty wild, like the number of requests I've had to do, different events and speaking stuff, and I even got asked to go on like a game show. Just like heaps of random stuff.
Awesome.
It's weird because, I'm still the same person I was before the medal, but suddenly everyone's more interested in what I have to say about things, and it's funny.
It's the Olympic effect.
Yeah.
Just got a little espresso, thank you. And a big Leamington to welcome you home.
Yeah, that looks good.
We'll get into it after.
Are we sharing that?
Yeah, I've got it cut. Got the big cut on your side.
Yeah.
Well, for the tech heads out there, me included.
Yeah, we've got to keep them happy.
What does the time trial, the Olympic time trial, look like? So it was about a 40-minute time trial.
Yeah.
49 kilometres an hour is sort of what I found out.
Yep. I was a little bit disappointed not to crack the 50, to be honest. But
It was 49 point what? I didn't write that down.
It was close. It was like high.
Yeah, it was over. I should have rounded it up.
Yeah.
I actually did round it up, and then I deleted it. 49.
I feel like if it was a dry course, then I would have been able to get it because I really had to slow down for the corners. So, yeah.
Well, what about that technical thing? Because it was a minute and 30 gap to second place Anna Henderson and 1:31 to Chloe Dygaard. Massive gaps.
Yeah.
Were you just like that superior, or was the combination of, hey, I know how to corner in the wet and I'm strong as hell?
I don't know if it was like a little bit of, I just judged it right. You know, like I don't think I took massive risks, but I'm sure if you asked Heyman and Jean Bates in the car behind me, they would have said that I did. But
Did you feel ever like, ooh, that was close?
There was one corner where my rear tyre slipped a little bit, but
that was just fun.
Yeah,
like,
it was just fun. Yeah. And one, like there was a roundabout that I sort of went a little bit wide on the exit.
Fun again.
Yeah, just enjoying myself. But yeah, I never felt like I didn't worry about crashing. Like I think that helped.
You had to be in that mindset, I guess.
It didn't enter my head that could be a possibility that I'd come down. And thankfully I didn't follow what was happening in the race before I went off because lots of people crashed. And I think if you know that, then you're like a little bit tense and you're more likely to take a dodgy line or, wipe out.
What did you do, Watts, for the...
I did...
For 50 minutes, 40 minutes.
40 minutes, pretty much bang on 300 watts.
Nice.
So, yeah, that was pretty good for me on a flat course with, a lot of corners.
A lot of zeros, yeah. For the corners.
Yeah. A lot of non-pedaling time. Yeah.
It's just another big event slotted into our season. Like I read out before, you'd done the Vuelta, you'd already done all these events, the Giro right before, and after the Olympics, you were straight to the Tour. Yeah. So, do you think that helps in a way, like cyclists in general now, but also yourself? Yeah,
a little bit. You can't, we don't spend 4 years thinking about this one event because there's so much else going on, and it's impossible to build your whole season around that. Like, we have to peak and come down and go up again. So, I think it helps. It takes a bit of pressure off. There's still a lot of pressure for the Olympics, and you do feel like this is your one opportunity in 4 years to get it right. But, in the back of your mind that if it doesn't go right, you've got other opportunities to make a good year out of it.
Well, the end of the year was pretty epic as well. Like we said, the Tour de France, Romandy squeezed in there. Worlds. So what did it feel like going back to the Worlds then? The year before you said second there. You've just topped it at the Olympics, but it's weirdly a little bit different there, I get the feeling. And now it's back to the Worlds. Something you're used to, something you still wanted to conquer, or was it just a bit like, whatevs? I don't need to debt this now. If I do, then I do.
I think I wasn't desperate for it. Winning the Olympics was super good. Yeah, of course I wanted to also be world champion, but it was like I was fine if I didn't nail it. So it took a lot of pressure off. I was quite relaxed. Also didn't have really the opportunity to do like a perfect preparation or anything coming into it. So there wasn't those like, you know, when you're really targeting something and yeah, you're thinking about it in all your sessions and, you know, it's like built out towards that. Then I didn't have that. So I just rocked up like trusting in what I could do and hoping that I could put out a good race. Yeah.
Pulled the skin suit on, no warm-up,
Yeah.
see what happens.
Well, funny you say that because actually the team like got the timing wrong for my schedule before the race and just wiped 10 minutes out of my warm-up. And I was like halfway through and I saw one of the girls that I was like, I'm pretty sure she's just like 2 riders ahead of me heading off to the start.
Oh, normally just freak out.
Yeah, and I looked down at the time, I was like, oh, I'm missing 10 minutes here.
Oh, no.
I like quickly did some 30-30s and I was off. I'm like, oh.
Oh,
yeah.
well.
It's always stressful before a time trial. Like, no matter how prepared you think you are, the time goes and you're like
disappears, doesn't it?
running around flapping your arms before. Yeah.
Well, the Chrono Nations was your last race, and I'm assuming you planned it like that because if you won the Olympics, you got to ride in the gold bike, which you did at the Tour de France. But
Yeah.
if you did win the Worlds, you got to do it all. And one
Yeah.
chance to race in the rainbow jersey with the gold bike, gold helmet. Like, I'm all aesthetics, so I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, if I was
Yes.
ever world champ,
Yes.
that'd all be about the kit. So
Yeah. It was,
tell me about that last ride.
I was so glad that I planned to do that race. Yeah, it was really awesome. Like, I'm a bit sad, obviously, to win the world champs and not do the full season and race in the rainbows like a few more times. But it just meant that I had to go there and make the most of like that one time for all the photos and yeah, just soak it up. It's pretty. Like, I think I almost underestimated how cool it is to wear the rainbow jersey. Like, when I put it on for the first time, I was like, wow, this is like something special.
The big question, Grace. We're back here now and we're sitting back. I'm about to enjoy coffee. It's very relaxed. I guess the next phase, you know, where are you at? You know, are you just sort of soaking it up at the moment? Did you have a big plan? Cool, I'm going to finish, you know, Ash Barty style and move on and do this and do that. Or you're just like, you know what, I just need to get my feet back on the ground and work it out as things unfold.
Yeah, a bit of a mix. Like, I didn't want to come back and just have complete open, like, no plan. I like having stuff to do, so I've got a lot of little things lined up over the next couple of months, doing lots of events and hopefully working at the cycling over the summer in Australia. And in the background, I'm working on a little product, but it's quite slow moving, so it's on the down low.
Cycling related
still.
or?
Yeah, well, not specifically cycling related. It's not unrelated to cycling, but more general sport.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, keep tuned for that.
Awesome. Well, we've got this Leamington just begging for us to eat it right in front of us.
Yeah, my mouth's watering looking at it.
It's been so fun catching up with you, and I'm going to get to see you around every other day.
Yeah, I promise I'll be at the Dirty Docker next year. No excuses now.
Awesome, Grace. Thanks for coming on the pod.
Thanks, bitch.
Love sitting back with her, love finishing the season with Grace, and love that she could end her career here at Life in the Peloton. But she's going to go on to bigger and better things, no doubt, and rock that world champion jersey around the streets of Melbourne. I love that. It's going to be here. Not only that, but the gold bike, the gold helmet. She's Olympic champ for the next 4 years. How cool's that? Guys, lots going on. This will be the last episode of Life in the Peloton for this year, but we'll be back next year, bigger and better, of course, in January with some new stuff. You'll be hearing about that over at the socials, so watch out for that. If you're a member of the Echelon, you'll be getting emails. Or if you want to just subscribe to hear the latest updates, head across to Life in the Peloton and subscribe. You'll hear about what we're going to be doing next year at Life in the Peloton. Big thanks goes out to lots of people that made the podcast happen this year. MAAP were amazing. I loved working with these guys this year, and they will be on board for next year as well. Great having them on board to make this podcast come to life and all the other stuff we've been doing off the air. You've surely seen it on the socials, and I'm sure you've been enjoying it too. Big thanks goes out also to Red Bricks Media, who put this podcast together. Couldn't do it without those guys. Will, Eleanor, you guys have been amazing. The Life in the Peloton team behind the scenes, Spurlo, doing an awesome job. Tom, Durbo, Swano, across at the Chronicles. Been great having you guys on board. And look, I couldn't do it without you guys listening. I love hearing from you guys, and I hope you've enjoyed the series this year. Get across, get your Life in the Peloton kit. That supports the podcast too, so I'd love to see you guys repping that. And if not, grab yourself a book. I will see you around. I'll see you next year. And thanks for listening. Take it easy, guys. Cheers.
That iconic music in this episode was composed by none other than the legend, Pete Shelley. Cheers, mate.